SEO This Week, hey everyone. Welcome to another episode of SEO This Week. No tools today, just news and questions. Let's get into it.
Did you know a press release alone isn't enough? Visibility is key. You need a multi-platform strategy to share your story across news, audio, video, and social media. Welcome to Magic PR, where your press release transforms into a powerful media experience, maximizing exposure and engagement. We distribute your release to top outlets like Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg, Business Insider, and more. Plus, your release is SEO optimized, ensuring better search rankings. But we don't stop there. We turn your press release into a podcast, distributing it across 25 platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Then, we create a social media content for Facebook, X, and Instagram, and even transform your story into a video press release for YouTube and top media sites. Video drives over 80% of higher engagement, and short-form content is king. We make viral videos for your YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and more. At Magic PR, we don't just publish, we amplify. Get your press release seen, heard, and shared everywhere. Visit magicpr.com today and take your brand to the next level. Back to you, Clint.
All right, so the first post is from Chris Green's Crawling a Million Websites in Search of LLM.txt. So it's kind of been jumping around in the SEO community. I don't know, it's like a hit or miss thing, but in short, there was a proposal to create what's called the LLMs TXT for your websites to establish a universal way that AI systems can crawl your website and get the information out of it. If you don't know what it does, in short, is it takes all of your content across your entire website, depending on how you build it, and puts it all in this one single document so that an LLM, if assuming that they use it, would access that one single document and all your content would be there, and then ergo they would know what is on your website. Interesting concept, but it is only a proposal. There have been no announcements from any of the AI tool creators or AI dataset creators, i.e. Gemini, Meta, DeepSeek, OpenAI, etc., to say that they are using this TXT file. I have it set up on digitalear.com. I just wanted to see kind of like what it is. And then I got a couple tips from Brian Winham inside or at SEO Spring Training when he was giving his presentation, where some stuff that he did with the LLM text file. LLM text files in and of themselves can actually index. The Google will index TXT files that are hosted on websites. So there is that. There is an alternative use that you could play with in regards to these files. Be cautious though, and I say cautious because let's apply a little bit of common sense. When you run those, as you scroll through, one of the things you see, especially in the one that I use, the Rank Math creator, it doesn't add the URLs to the file. So if your goal is to be cited in and then linked to from an AI data set, probably not going to happen in the way that you think is going to happen. But it is a proposal, and assuming that it gets used, would it be better now to get all the kinks out of it and creating it and get that out of your system now when no one's using it versus figuring out that a whole bunch of people are using it and then it be broken and your implementation of it sucks and you just can't get it working right. So I would say go ahead and try it out now. Based off of the data that Chris Green is saying, there's not very many websites that he could find that are actually using it. The majestic 0.15% of the websites are using it. So 15 out of the million sites are using it. So it's clearly not something that, everyone's jumping on the bandwagon about. Wisely so, but I mean, at this point, it really doesn't hurt anything. So I say try it out. And if you want to know what Brian Winham said about what he's doing with his LLM TXTs, hit him up on a Facebook or whatever and ask him in regards to his SEO spring training presentation. If you missed it, you missed it. A bunch of people got to jump on you, but I think it's interesting. Let's put it that way. It deserves a test. LLMs aren't playing by Google's rules. The short version of this is really about picking out in regards to how LLMs read your page. And Jono is arguing that because, and there's David Shapiro, I think he's the one that did it most recently, or that I remember on his YouTube channel, talking about how most of these LLMs are actually rendering content. And the short version is all this fanciness that you see here in this example is ripped out, and the only thing that they're reading is your URL and the text that goes on your URL. And Jono's argument is that it's not rendering JavaScript, and anything that you have hidden behind like late loads or lazy loads or whatever could potentially not be picked up by the LLMs if they're going to use your website as part of a data set. So you just need to understand that potentially could be happening. So are they smarter? I think honestly in the beginning is probably what they did, but as these evolve a little bit more, in particular when regards to AI for tools like web design, etc., they're going to need to be able to look at all of the site and to build out its data set for coding websites, as an example. So it may render more than that, but to me, if I'm looking to save money and just build it and get it going right away via data that's scraped off the net, just having the content part just here seems to make a whole lot of sense. So it says LLMs aren't playing by Google's rules. Well, LLMs don't have to because they're not using Google, and you as an SEO or as a business owner needs to understand that LLMs, OpenAI, Meta, etc., they're not scraping your website like Googlebot does. They're just not doing that. So if you understand what they're looking for, then you have better, more realistic expectations in regards to your website presenting in the search results of these tools. SEO insights from 8,000 AI citations. And this is ChatGPT and Gemini and AI overviews and Perplexity. I'm not going to go through all of this because there's a lot of different potential things that could push it through, but there are some takeaways and some examples of types of content that in the bottom of this post that you should probably look at. But in a high level, we'll say is that if you were going to get into Perplexity and people told you to stop writing a blog, they just dicked you. Perplexity is citing blogs a lot. Numbers escape me exactly, but I believe in all of these cases, information content, i.e. the stuff typically is going to be on a blog or in a news section, is the predominant winner of being cited in these tools across the board. And you can look at the thing. I mean, other than ChatGPT, which relies really heavily on Wikipedia, the rest of them are using blogs or news sites in order to get information. The other thing to remember is authority. If you have a brand new website, you're not going to get cited in this. You have to build up some authority in the search engines. That means getting your branding on point, and then trying to figure out or try to define what air quotes authority is. And essentially, you got to get good sites to link to you, or a lot of sites to link to you, and build your authority up and rank your information content if you want it to eventually be used by any of these tools in regards to pulling out. And if you want to get into ChatGPT, I think the play here is getting your links onto Wikipedia pages or getting cited in Wikipedia pages, quotations in Wikipedia pages, etc., and then letting ChatGPT, assuming that it does it and it works that way, crawl the links off of ChatGPT, crawl the links off of Wikipedia, to find information sources that ChatGPT can use to pull into their data set. That's completely theory, though. And you might something to try out, assuming you have an editor that doesn't that can get your stuff actually put into Wikipedia. Because as Wikipedia became popular as a link building source, there's a lot of tool bags that went over there and ruined it for everybody. And now the editors are pretty much have the site on lockdown. So, but if you're lucky enough, try to see if that is how you pull it off. That would be a pretty interesting test, I think. Do users really show a higher intent when they click through LLM website? This is a Dan Taylor test. He's works over at Salt Agency. I've been following Dan quite some time. This article has been cited in a couple different places. I believe it's Search Engine Land or Search Engine Journal. In short, what he did is he looked at a whole bunch of websites, and here's his regex filter if you want to do that and put that into your analytics to kind of split this traffic out. That's nice to have that already done for you, by the way. But he looked at key events in GA4 for this many registered referrals from LLMs. Didn't say like how many sites or whatever, but this is just data that he has. And so the only downside I really see is just using key events, right? Because key events in analytics is everything from page views to scrolls and etc. Are those true conversions? Let's give benefit of the doubt and say that they are all like legitimate conversions. And you can see the numbers here. Now, these are taken like at face value. 49 is less than 54. But if you think in regards to statistics, that is like not nothing, right? So if I'm converting my traffic at 49% in regard versus 54%, well, yes, I would prefer 54%, but 49% is a fucking lot, right? Is a lot. Automotive 0.24, it really just tells you that the automotive traffic is not so much in regards to the data set or the location of the sites that he uses. It just kind of either the site sucks or it's not getting cited. If the organic conversion rate's that low, my guess is the site sucks altogether. B2B e-commerce, significant or statistically the same. Services, statistically the same, in my opinion. Careers, the LLMs go a little bit higher, but yeah, I mean, I can't say that they're statistically the same, but if you look at more of a data set and more widespread, or specifically at that much, I bet you that it would be probably statistically the same. Catalog websites, the same. Consumer e-commerce is low. I expect that would probably be about right. Like you're going to be researching information on products, and then when you actually get to the product, and you go to organic search to look specifically for it to buy it. That I expect that would change when Shopify gets into Copilot and ChatGPT. Education, 1% off, really. Health, statistically the same. Human resources, completely different. My guess is that was probably the indication more of trust of the information versus that, LLMs are kind of generating it, and organic is the cited sources. So I would expect that to be higher. Luxury, statistically the same. Pharmaceutical, same deal, doing a lot of research, but you're going to organic to learn to search for the specific products. Publishing, information stuff, right? Of course, that's going to be higher. Again, you're doing all your research on the LLMs, and then you go to the website. And if the more research you do, I would expect that this number would be higher and higher as it goes. Real estate and property, that's weird to me. Like, why is that? I guess this would be niche specific. I would highly doubt that you're looking up addresses and stuff. You're probably looking up more real estate and property information. So that goes along with publishing. SaaS, statistically the same. Telecommunications, a little bit different. I think that would have to be market. Like, give me some more information about that market. And then travel, really, I mean, you could probably argue that that's statistically the same. So if organic traffic, I have long held that organic traffic is the highest converting traffic that you can possibly get. You can get PPC, doesn't convert as much. You can get display ads, doesn't convert as much. Organic is people actually sitting down behind their computer or on their phone and typing in a specific thing that they want to research or get to, right? And they're going to convert higher than someone who randomly sees your advertising. And if you're using an LLM, you're already doing you're doing the research part and skipping that whole learning process that you would otherwise use Google for in organic, and going straight to the transactional or commercial search intent from the LLMs, either via you've already made your decisions via the LLMs and it somehow got to the website and you're going to convert, or you do the decision making on the LLM and then you search specifically for product X, Y, or Z in the organic, and your organic traffic and your LLM traffic are still, in my opinion, two of the highest converting opportunities for you. So. And this data doesn't change it. They can play with the numbers a little bit, but if you look at it statistically, I'd say that it's right on par. So those of you that are losing traffic to LLMs, you're not losing a whole lot in regards to CTR. As a matter of fact, in most cases, you're probably if you look at it a little bit better, plug all this stuff in there, and you have all the attribution stuff clicked up, I would imagine that I stand by that traffic's probably going to convert very high for you. Is it higher than organic? In some cases, yes. Some cases, no. But either way, it's still higher than all your other traffic sources, be my guess. So check this out. Apply this to your regex filters inside of your analytics and see what you get. iPullRank, relevance engineering, the future of search. I have a lot of respect for this website and the people behind it. This is written by Francine Mohan. Mike King is the guy that is behind this agency. I believe he owns it. Don't quote me on that. But Relevance Engineering has probably been SEO for the entire time that I've been doing SEO. Digital PR is link building, information retrieval is making sure the search engines can find my site and pull the information off it. User experience, is the site useful to users? Are they going to convert? The content strategy, what am I going to write about? How am I going to write about it? What types of articles am I going to write about it? And now artificial intelligence. How do I combine all those informations, all those other four pieces to make sure that the LLMs see me? And that's relevance engineering, and it's also been SEO for ages. And so cool new name. But I wanted to look at really this here is the importance of structured data and just how the language models potentially could be using it. There is no testing whatsoever that says that they are using structured data. If you believe the theory that they're stripping out all the HTML and only using your text, then that just negates structured data altogether. So you can't be in one camp and then thing in the other. So if they're going to use structured data, it's got to be they got to be keeping and analyzing the whole page, right? So you got to think about that. But you do want to establish some knowledge graphs. You do want to establish tier entities and stuff like that, so you can rank well in Google and then get pulled into those. But really, this is engineering relevance, and you're just using semantic triples. If you don't know, let me see if I can find them up here. They were mentioned before, semantic triples. There's a lot of people that like to use semantic triples and play around with this word salad, but where the hell is it? There you go, semantic triples. Subject, predicate, object. And essentially, this is subject, predicate, object, and you see semantic search in order. Net worth It's trying to, how rich is the actor? And then there's the object, Daniel Radcliffe. So net worth, Daniel Radcliffe, the semantic triple. There's way more to it, and I dumbly explained it, but the theory is that that's how Google is using search. And so that's why you get a whole bunch of these articles about, it's not about keywords anymore. It's about answering the searcher's question. If you hear that, I would suggest you probably get rid of your SEO, because it's always been about answering the user's question. But the main process is about defining or figuring out and determining how the user looked for the answer. And typically 2-word search, 3-word search, questions. Honestly, I don't know that. I can't remember the last time I typed out a full question like that. I'm doing 3-4 word strings. So you gotta play around with that a little bit and just kind of understand it. And then they made up this cool little word called fraggles. So short sentences versus long sentences, short paragraphs versus long paragraphs increase your chances of getting into the AI overview. There's no substantial testing that proves that one way or the other. Kind of makes sense because when we click on some of these, but on the citations, they do highlight the answer just as much like they did in the featured snippets, how they handled that. But there's no real definitive tie-in that this information came from here. It's like they just randomly pick some stuff. But look at semantic triples, look at the fraggles, see how you can rewrite or write your content. I prefer writing in shorter sentences and shorter paragraphs just because I don't want, this big wall of text to be showing up. So you can check that out. Play with the semantic triples a little bit. Here's a cool test idea for you. Subject, object, predicate, create a prompt that does all this, follows all these rules, and you can try to leverage that a little bit. I'm going to see if I can't make one of those up, and maybe I'll put it in my Discord and let you guys think around with it. But I got a couple other projects I'm working on right now, so I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to get to that right away. So don't hold me to it. Google local mistake that lost all the reviews. Short version. This post is actually interesting. What they claim is going on is called review gating, right? And essentially, I had this business had several, we'll say 1,000 reviews, and then all of a sudden, they lost all their reviews, and the theory is that it's because they were review gating. Personally, I don't see how that could be against terms of service. So if we look at terms of services, let's see here, discouraging or prohibiting negative reviews. So the idea behind this review gating thing is, hey, if you had a great experience, leave us a review. If you think you're going to give us 3 stars or less, fill out this form instead so we can get a better idea of how to serve you better. Personally, to me, that's good business sense. And doing that is not discouraging or prohibiting negative reviews, especially if you're collecting your reviews on Google Maps, your Google My Business listing. Anybody can go to that Google My Business listing, whether they liked you or hated you, and leave a review. So how is your system that's asking questions? If it stops you from going there directly through their system, that's not a violation of the Google guidelines. Because anyone can still go to that place. They can just search it if they want to leave a bad review completely. So I think it makes good business sense. Like if you're looking for 4 and 5 star reviews, and that's predominantly what you want to shoot for in a customer engagement experience. You want your customers to have a 4 to 5 star experience, preferably 5-star experience. And they say, no, I had a 3-star experience. Well, then ask questions. Ask questions and you can potentially fix it. And then you can earn that 4 or 5 star review. So to say that Google is just taking those out for that reason, I think personally, not knowing this business or whatever, this sounds to me like they have 4,000, 5,000. I'm looking at these numbers here. 297 reviews. They're all 5 stars or 4 or 5 stars. Probably all 5 stars, and it just looked weird. And then the bunch of the accounts that are associated with it look fake, and so they torched it. That's honestly what I think. And I'd be even closer, even if they were real. They had competition that reported them, and to Google, the whole Google tattletale system that's built up for all the white hat SEOs. It was leveraged. So, and then it says 1 year later, 1,500 reviews. There's no rankings. If you know this business that they're citing, just have them get with me. We'll get their rankings back, because 1,500 reviews after a year, that's a good business. And there's just something being done or not being done to fix that and get those rankings back. Crafting the perfect prompts. Oh, I lied. I guess I do have a tool. Well, this wasn't something that I found when I was searching through the interwebs for news to talk about. So it's called ShumerPrompt. And what I like about these is you can create prompts and then it'll play around with it and actually help you generate better prompts, right? So I like tools like this because they give you some ideas, etc. I have my own system to making prompts, and they come out, I would argue, objectively better than a lot of these smaller prompts. But I mean, it doesn't hurt to try things out. So, and you can get some ideas and like, oh, I want to make this growth hacker. This would be interesting. Like, act as a strategist to growth happen. There's the prompt, and we can mess around with these long prompts and figure out a little bit more information and maybe leverage AI better. So I think this is like crowdsourcing ideas. These types of sites. That's what I use that section in my Discord for too. It's crowdsourcing ideas. Here's my prompt. Think it's cool. Think it sucks. Irregardless, and make it better or leverage it for something that you thought you needed or didn't know you needed. So there's our tool, ShumerPrompt.com. Topic clusters. Everyone talks about topic clusters, and this is what a topic cluster looked like back in my day. Nowadays they're like 50,000 word spreadsheets, all blown out to all hell and back. But at the end of the day, this is what we were doing, and it is a topic cluster. This is how we handle it. So now there's the new thing. Let's create these convoluted spreadsheets or whatever. But I mean, they do have their uses, especially if you're creating, say, some deliverables and stuff. So here's her spreadsheet. There's a lot to it. Topic, content, status, all these drop downs all work and stuff like that too. So you can play with this. So this is a really good deliverable if you need to push everything through. I'm taking on a new client. Hopefully, cross my fingers. And I'll need to do this because I'm going to have, it's a brand new market to me. As you guys know, I like to do new markets. So this is skincare market, and we're going to have to do a lot of content marketing play. And this will allow me to keep track of the content we make for them. The clients will review it for a while until they're comfortable with our writing styles and we're comfortable with their market. And we can plug that all into this sheet. So it won't be just a topical map, as it were. It'll be a good tracking for your content piece too. Also, if you put the backlinks in here and you make this public, it could also be link building. So you have some stuff in here, and then there's a pivot table in the back. Yay, yippee. And then there's a content brief if you want to make that a deliverable team. That's also a Google. I think that was a Google Doc. So these are pretty interesting, just some new ideas. And then the rest of this is using the Moz tools to pull out the content stuff. So use your tool as you see fit. I'm actually kind of digging their displays and stuff like that. You could probably create a couple of these, throw some screenshots and put that as part of your proposals. And then money-making content formats. Plenty of different ideas in regards to different types of formats of content to make nowadays. Best, as we learned last week, is actually pretty good for getting into AI. So if you can make some best articles, that would be cool to knock out in regards to getting into AI a little bit. Title tags. How often does Google change title tag? There's the number. I mean, if you ever wondered. 76%. It depends on the niche and where they're using it from. They can get it from the H1s. They can modify your title tags. They can change it. They can drop the branding. They can add the branding, etc. But in general, 76% of the time, they are going to change your title tags. So if you are like me and you like testing, you know that you can add, just because Google says, or the search engines will only show, 60 characters. You can add a whole lot to your title tag, add more words, add more similarities, add more entities, etc. to your title tags. Google's going to change it anyway, so why not do it? But you can look at all the math in here and the numbers from their test. This is a pretty good roll-up. I mean, I've done one of these types of things for Core Web Vitals when Core Web Vitals came out. And it's a pain in the ass to do it, but it gives you a lot of good information. In this case, you got to figure out what the title tag is and then what is being displayed, and then you got to account for volatility. Are they changing it to? I know that Ted Kubaitis has the volatility tool inside of Quora that does volatility for meta descriptions. It would be cool to see one for title tags. It'd also be cool to see one that actually determined, based off of that search result, where is the title tag coming from? Because, like, as an example, in rehab, they generally use the H1. In SEO, I've seen them using H1s or variations of H1s. So it would be pretty interesting to see that roll up to you. But this is a pretty good article. So, but if you want to, you have a client that's giving you trouble about your title tag selection, just show them this. Google's going to change it anyway. So I'm going to do it for SEO. Another tool. Man, I got 2 tools in here. Automatic redirect mapper. This is for those of you that are doing site migrations and you want to get all that stuff figured out before you break anything, then this would be for you. Obviously, you're going to need to be a little bit of a technical nerd. There is some instructions in here, but it's not very good, so I would play with it a little bit. Probably this would be one of those tools that you want to keep now, play with when you can, and just have it when you're ready and already know the ins and outs of it. Don't get this to solve a problem now because there's some nuances I'm sure you got to figure out to make everything work. But there are packages that are required. This is all Python, and it will, and again, here's the instructions, but there is a little bit of work involved in setting it up. So check it out. The essential page path location. If you're like me, everyone has different rules or et cetera, and how they read their data and their information. And posts like this are actually pretty valuable because they help you with clients and stuff and explaining what the hell's going on. If you don't have these on your site, you probably need to get them. I'm even woefully underprepared in regards to just like simple questions like this. And you can have those and set them into your autoresponder to go once a week, and help people understand their data a little bit better. So page location and page path are 2 different things. And you see, this is the page location is basically the URL, but this is also a page location when they're adding parameters versus the page path is always going to be the URLs, right? And so this is the page location. This is the page path. So that's the difference between the two. And there could be some importance in just understanding, like if you have this and 50 different variants showing up, but the page path is the page is getting all the traffic. So those variant pages may or may not be in the index, and it's totally fine, in my opinion, if they are, because it's at the end of the day, it's going through this page path a little bit. But that really depends on what you get going on in your e-com store, which is typically the ones that are going to be dealing with these variants and query strings, etc. Unless you got a crappy CMS that lets people hack your parameters. So this is really good. Look at this page. I'm going to do it myself. Drink my own Kool-Aid and make a whole bunch of these so that I can create some, enough information for an autoresponder and plug through for like a whole year if I wanted to, just one article a month or a week about these things, which keeps communications open between you and your clients. Google ground, new insights into how Google grounds. Here is where I want you to get out of it is this is how Gemini is getting information, not necessarily AI overview. So it's Gemini. And what it's doing is that it's actually searching the search engines. So if you want to get into Gemini, you got to rank, and then it's going and putting queries in and then finding the information that answers those queries. That's the short version. Where the hell's that example? Let's scroll through it. There it is. So the sixth query and the second result. And that's the response in regard to this information. So I would, it's kind of, I talked about this at SEO Spring Training when there's a lot of questions about LLMs. There's one version where you go in there and ask it a whole bunch of questions about your brand, and that's how you get into it. Could be true, more than likely not, because of the memory features of how these are using. But I think specifically because Copilot is plugged into Bing and Gemini is plugged into Google, that those two are using the search engines, and depending on where you rank for multiple queries is how you become a cited source for any particular user. And it's not necessarily remembering you, especially here, you can see proof that it's actually doing the searches and looking for it, for an answer. As Gemini evolves and leverages more of the information that's already inside Googlebot, Googlebot and their indexing. So check this out. There is absolutely zero insight into how to get you into Gemini based off of this information. You can just take some suppositions, and in short, if you want to get into Gemini, you want to get cited in Gemini, you got to rank for more keywords. So you still got to do SEO. So check this out. It's pretty interesting, kind of nerdy information, but that's the highlights. Embedded Mac components sending the right signals to SEO. This is a really cool test. So if you don't know what the hell you're looking at right here, this embedded map is created by the Google developers.google.com. It's not the one, you can't go to Google Maps and create that map. Technically I think you can. It takes a little bit more work, but if you go to developers.google.com and do it and go find pizza near you, that's your keyword, and it'll make the map and it'll list 5 to 10 locations, put all the pins on there. And anytime a user comes to your page, wherever they're at, that'll pop up. And specifically in the case of this location page, it adds city relevance for the page, right? That's the intent of creating those maps. So you can use the Google Dev and lock into that specific city. Like, I only want to search in Seattle, and here's my keyword. So location, keyword, and then it'll create the pins. And that's creating local relevance. That's the idea behind those maps. And this test was, if I remove that, because everyone says I should remove those, then am I hurting my SEO? And the answer is resoundingly yes. 70% decrease in sessions. That's page hits for you playing the home game, visitors. as a result of removing that. And what happened is more than likely they removed a lot of the optimization that specifically targeted that actual city that they were doing, like Cladama, Fishville, Naples, Washington, Little Italy. I don't even know if those places exist. 98516. I don't. Yeah, that would be a guess, but it's looking like it's a made up map. But it's removing the city or the area relevance from the location page, and that's why the location page dropped. So yes, they do work. If you have a high traffic landing page that has that on there and you're using the dev.google maps, you could end up spending some money. So you want to be a little bit careful. You also want to be careful if you're getting some douchebag that's blasting you with fake traffic and trying to DDoS you, because every time that page hits, that API triggers and you get charged for it in that regards. But I think there may be some ways to do it inside of Google Maps to create similar maps like that. Don't ask me. I don't know how. I prefer the other way because it tells the APIs, hey, we're getting questions about this city on this page. In theory, no proof whatsoever, but in theory, if those APIs are getting triggered on that page by those searchers, then that page does better. But I digress. This is a really good test. I like this one. They've had some decent tests lately, but this one's actually hit it off the park for me. So check it out. All right, let's get into questions. Struggling to rank for dev keywords, Googlebot. So essentially what he's meaning, he's trying to rank for more like Django, Celery, base 64 coded image, Googlebot simulator. Those are actually two distinct sets. And he's wondering how do you determine that one is too hard, right? So if you got a new website, you kind of want to stay in the Googlebot simulator, Googlebot checker, Googlebot test, simulate Googlebot, and those kind of information / calculator type SAS, mini SAS posts are actually really easy to get into. I think I got into TF-IDF calculator and TF-IDF calculator. Fairly easy. Let me see where I'm at. Right here. I was number one for the longest time. No traffic here, by the way. There is, well, I won't say that. There is a little bit of traffic, but at the end of the day, it's kind of not worth the squeeze. Like, I'm not going to go in here and try to outrank all of these tools, right? Just create a little calculator that supports website auditor, and it ranks and it did fine. So when you're looking at those kind of keywords for your pages, depending on the power your website has, that's where you want to go. Now, the Django, Celery, etc., those sound like something that's really brand. And my guess is when we do this search, we're going to get a lot of authority sites. So Celery Docs, Real Python, not so much, but Celery, Green for Geeks, Medium. You're really competing with Celery Docs, though. You're going to have a little bit of problems getting past them, especially in PyPy, and Real Python has been around for quite some time too. So you're going to have a harder time doing those. Not undoable. All of them, though, you're not going to get into without building backlinks. So based off of the numbers here that they've seen, there is traffic volume there. If you're 45 and still getting 38, then there is traffic there. That means people scroll back at least 5 pages in the search results to see your listing. Or there could be some numbers mesh in there in the search console. But in short, that's really what that means. So you want to start building links to these pages using these queries. That's how I would handle that. So it is doable. It's just going to take you a lot more time. You're going to need some backlinks to knock it out to get into these types of things that are generally taken up by authority sites. Google showing index URLs with parameters. How I clean this up. I wouldn't even really worry about it. the problem here is like referral, Twitter, UTM source. UTM source I've seen in Search Console specifically. If you have like UTM source on your links and your citations and your maps and everything, the UTM source does show up inside of there. Not a big deal. It's still canonical to the primary URL. Just Google Search Console is showing it to you because that URL with the UTM parameters getting some traffic and getting a little, maybe some backlinks. Generally, they come from backlinks and getting some exposure, and they just want to say, hey, check it out, right? Referral Twitters and stuff like that is probably backlinks that you're doing inside of like your RSS tool or your make run or whatever. You take those out and you kind of lose insight into where that traffic was coming from. I'd say leave them in. And again, canonical will take care of the rest. There are some people who theorize that if you have those, then you're going to be keyword cannibalizing yourself. I completely and utterly disagree. I find that theory of thought to be complete bullshit. Unless you have some system in there that adds those parameters as canonical URLs to those URLs. And for the most part, you intentionally have to do that in most CMSs to screw that up. So it's not an issue. It's okay. Robotstxt, unsure how I fixed never blocked everything. So this is an example of Shopify Robotstxt. This actually does happen. You got to check things out to make sure they're good. Things that worry me are like these blogs ones. That's kind of weird because you use blogs for your content marketing to support your e-store. So I would check those out 100% for sure. But checkouts and carts and all that stuff, you don't want them to do that. If you if you have Google by adding products to your carts and creating and crawling down this endless rabbit hole essentially and not getting over through all your products, you have a problem. So some things to check out in this example for sure, but it's generally like here's example: cart, probably don't want, cart, don't want, search suggest. That's adding new products and following the search rabbit hole. You don't want it. Policies, privacy policy, I wouldn't necessarily block that by Robotstxt. It's kind of like, should I have it or should I not, right? But carts for sure, you don't want them crawling it. And then just because it's in this report doesn't mean it's bad. That's one of the downsides of this. I always thought the Search Console should have a option so you can, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, right? And you're essentially giving some feedback saying, hey, these, you identified these are supposed to be that way, ignore them. That would be awesome. But at what scale, like saving all of those rules for when they're crawling and stuff is probably not feasible for every user at every website. So they just kind of give you this blanket thing and you got to go through there with some common sense and go, no, I don't want those to be there. So check it out. How to increase CTR of Google disregards self-written meta descriptions. This is kind of ever since they started using machine learning to rewrite them is something that I've always dealt with. It's much in like the titles. You kind of got to look at what the meta descriptions are showing and then see if you can figure out where that's coming from on your website or where that information is. If you can do that, you can start modifying those locations in theory and check it out. But then it could potentially just look somewhere else. I just use a prompt that I created. I give ChatGPT the title and the brand name and then have it write it. I have it write a meta description for me, and then I leave it at that. I kind of think of those meta descriptions now more for social media where you want to, do specifically in the OG data and where social media, they can read that brief little summary real quick and see what things are up. and it kind of solves that issue. But those do change consistently, and Google inevitably won't pick the one that's best for you. So put a good one in there, and at the end of the day, you just kind of have to cross your fingers because there's some different rules on how they show and what's shown in them, etc., based off a search query, blah blah blah, and that really screws you up, and you're going to be chasing this rabbit hole forever for something that you can't even fix. So that is ultimately, at the end of the day, sadly, it is what it is. All right, so that's it. I lied. I guess we had 2 tools, 4 questions, and a whole bunch of news. Hope you got something out of today's episode, and see you next week.